Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Welcome to the podcast and Posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany. What's up, guys? So it's so funny when I looked at the title of the episode that I'm recording today, I went, wow, what interesting timing. And it's what to do when you lose motivation in your business, but it could just be your motivation for anything, any goal in your life, whether it is a fitness type goal, whether it's writing a book, creating a business, quitting a job, going for a promotion, whatever it is, it's when you lose motivation. And why I'm saying it was interesting and the timing's interesting when I looked at the topic is I'm in that phase right now. And if you guys are loyal listeners, which thank you to those of you who are, you know that I keep the shit real here. And I also like showing you my shit, and I like showing you when I'm shining. I want you guys to see both sides and all the in between. This way you get a real glimpse, right, of what true entrepreneurship looks like, what true life looks like, versus just seeing a highlight reel, which is what a lot of people put out there. It usually doesn't make anyone feel good. It brings out a lot of shame, which is one of the things I would tell you to stop doing, which is scrolling if you've lost your motivation. But I want to explain to you, get a little further into why this timing's so interesting. So we all go through phases in life, right? Just like the moon has its phases, just like our internal hormone cycles, whether you're a male or a female, that has phases. We all have our phases. Now, the moon, maybe our hormone cycle, right? That doesn't necessarily rapidly change all day long, but we have cycles when it comes to our mood and energy levels too. Now, some people, it's one day they feel one way, the next day they feel a different way. Other people might have a couple weeks where they're highly energized and motivated, and then just a day that they feel kind of down and don't feel like doing everything. Everyone is different because everyone has prior experiences that are different. Maybe you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life, like I have, coming from, a lot of childhood abuse, right? There's already that type of PTSD stuff to deal with on top of it. You might be someone who has an anxiety disorder or depression or postpartum or something like that. And so you have that kind of stuff to deal with on top of it. So that can make things a little more challenging. You just have some more stuff to navigate, right? And if you're someone where I like to call you, so to speak, a normie, which no one really is normal, and you haven't had any, significant trauma or significant disturbing events in your life, and you're not diagnosed with any sort of mental illness, you're just a regular, person, and you've been blessed to not have those extra things, you're still going to have all sorts of different moods all month long, right? All year long. You're just not going to, just because you didn't have those types of things happen in your life, that doesn't mean you're not going to have periods of stress, anxiety, doom and gloom, downtimes, depression. Okay. We don't get to escape that. As human beings having this experience, I wish we could escape those crap feelings, but we don't get to. And let's be real, if we were highly motivated all the time, we would probably be really annoying. If you're always on it, always rearing to go, like those people aren't really relatable. And I don't really know anyone who's like that all the time. I know people who want others to think that. And they annoy me because it's not real and it's not realistic. And usually if someone is in that space, they have a mask they've created. They feel they need to come across that way all the time. I see this a lot with people who teach a lot of mindset stuff like me, or are teaching a lot of healing type practices. Maybe they're really into meditation, manifestation, wellness, health. They feel like they have to always show up super high vibe, super motivated, because if they don't, well, then who is going to buy their stuff or hire them, because it must not be working, right? No. In fact, it makes me not trust you, because it's just not possible to be that way all the time. We're not designed to be like that. Take a look at our animals. You guys know, I'm an animal lover. But just take a look at animals, whether it's just like in the wild, nature, or your own dogs or cats or whatever at home. They have moods. I mean, if you watch my Instagram stories at ProjectME with Tiffany, you see my giant English bulldog, Molly. She is the definition of moody. There's a reason so many people find that breed so relatable. Well, their eyes mimic, human looking eyes, but it's also because they go through human emotions and they're so expressive about it. So she can be happy, she can be energized, and then she can have lazy days, she can be grumpy. And I laugh when I see these because it's normal. This is an animal, and animals experience it. I mean, I had rescue cats before. I had one cat, then she passed, and I got another cat. My cats had moods. So the reason I'm telling you this is it's that whole nature versus nurture. This is in our nature to have a spectrum of moods and feelings. That is normal. So that was a long way of saying it, but I wanted to share that with you. But I'm doing this topic today. When I wrote down my topics, because I batch, my podcast is I teach you guys to do batching to manage your schedule. So it's just funny when I looked and it was about how to get motivated and get back into motivation if you're not feeling motivated. Well, I am truly not feeling motivated right now. I'm not feeling great. I don't know if I caught something on the way back from Maui or what. I'm not feeling great. Prior to me even going to Hawaii, there was a series of events that occurred in my business life that were not pretty. They were messy. And messy shit happens in our lives. And guess what? Messy shit happens in our business. Even with someone like me who's been an entrepreneur 11 years, I know how to avoid a lot of roadblocks and a lot of potholes, but that doesn't mean new ones don't pop up. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes or I miss something or I make a bad hire or something happens, right? And just a series of things happened and they weren't positive things. And it really didn't feel good. It stressed me out. It put me in just a kind of a low vibe space, but I was fighting it prior to leaving. So I had a lot of shit to do prior to me, going on a trip, and I fought it. And then of course, kind of hard to be in a bad energy when you're in Maui, right? And plus I was very busy when I was there. So that was a positive distraction, but guess what? Life was here waiting for me when I got back. And just even knowing when I woke up the next day, like coming back, knowing I still had to deal with the mess of the issues that occurred prior to leaving. I had to deal with the cleanup of it, right? It's me. I own the company. I have to deal with it. And that didn't feel good. And my system was tired. I don't feel well. So what do you do when you're in that spot? This is real life. So I'm going to tell you what I do, what I've done, what I'm doing now, and it's in real time because I'm going through it. This doesn't mean I'm not passionate about my business. This doesn't mean I'm not cut out to have Project Me with Tiffany Carter. This doesn't mean that I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. This doesn't mean I'm destined to fail. It doesn't mean any of those things that our inner critic, right, is saying to us. And as some of you know, my inner critic's name is Susie, right? Susie comes out when I don't feel well, when I'm overwhelmed, when a bunch of shit hits the fan. Susie really wasn't out much in Hawaii. Susie isn't out much when all things are, going right and happy in my business. Susie comes out when we're in a bad way and shit hits the fan, right? Kind of like beating someone down when they're already down, which is like the worst thing we could do to ourselves. So she comes out and she's saying all these things. And I talk back to her. It's like, I know that that's what it feels like right now. I know it feels like you just want to give it all up. You're over it. You want to run away. You want to go like hide and create seashell necklaces on the beaches of Maui for the rest of your life. And I know that's how it feels, how it seems. It feels icky. It feels gross. It feels aggravating and frustrating to have to clean up this mess. It almost feels like, you're going backwards. And I honor what my inner critic's saying. Okay. So I know I teach you guys also to, say, hey, take a back seat, bitch. And I teach you guys to say that. But when you're in a space where you're feeling really down and unmotivated and vulnerable, it's good to honor what that inner critic is saying. Honoring meaning that doesn't mean you're taking it in as fact, but you're listening to it. So I'm like, okay, I hear you, Susie. I hear you. And I can see how you can feel that way because a lot of shit did happen and it is a lot and it doesn't feel good. And who wants to do that messy part? And who wants to have to clean up all that mess and all that extra time and energy? And it's not fun. And there's a lot of adulting involved and ew. So I hear you. And we're going to get through it. And it's not helping me with you you pointing it out and beating a dead horse, so to speak. It's not helping. So I want you to know you're heard. So when we let that inner critic, especially when we're in a vulnerable space, when you're unmotivated, it's a vulnerable space. Okay. It's not a space where you're feeling your strongest, your most empowered. You're feeling vulnerable often. Sometimes it can be a really lonely feeling, right? Especially if you're, you could be a single mom or you have, you're starting a business, or even if you are surrounded by wonderful people, it can feel lonely because no one can make you become motivated. No one can make you happy. That has to come from within. And when you're in that period, when you're kind of sitting in those crappy feelings, can feel really isolating and lonely, and that makes us feel vulnerable. So you need to have a different approach with that inner critic at that time, and just allowing that inner critic to know they're being heard, because that's really what all of us want anyway in our lives, is to be heard, respected, understood, valued, and loved. It quiets Susie down. Okay, so I want you guys to first start out by doing that and acknowledging what is, and not trying to like Pollyanna everything. And what I mean by Pollyanna everything is, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. And, there's brighter days ahead. That's even if you find one of those lines that works, it might work for a few minutes. And then it's going to go back, or it's going to just annoy you further, depending on your personality. If you have any sort of personality like me, you'll be like, yeah, go fuck yourself when you're in that state. So another thing that I do to help me out of this process is I reach out. I pick up the damn phone. I don't mean texting. I actually pick up the phone. That phone can seem like it weighs 1,000 pounds. but I pick up the phone. Like I said, when we're in that unmotivated space, that down space, that low vibe space, it's a very vulnerable, isolating, and lonely space. So you want to take contrary action versus sitting in it, grabbing a tub of ice cream or chips and, dissociating and zoning out with Netflix and, carbs, right? Let's take an action that's actually going to get us somewhere, because those other actions might feel soothing for an hour or so, but then it's actually going to make us feel even worse, and that's not going to get us out. So pick up the phone. And that can feel really scary, especially if we're someone who's not used to asking for help, or if we're someone who feels like they have to kind of portray an image where they're always up and happy or have their shit together. But I promise you, there's someone in your life you can call, whether it's, whether you have a coach, whether it's making an appointment with your therapist, a friend, a family member. Just make sure it's someone who can hold space for you and listen. Don't set yourself up for more shit by calling someone who really doesn't have, who won't get it and doesn't have the skill set to help you. A lot of times people want to reach out to their partner or their lover, but that person may, even though they're wonderful, may not be equipped or have the skill set to help you through when you're in the space. And if it's something you're unmotivated about in your business, right? I wouldn't advise calling someone who doesn't have a business. They might not get it. They might tell you something crazy like, you should just stop doing that and just stick with your day job, and that could go worse. So always, take a second to pause and ask yourself, who do I feel who could hold space for me, and reach out. That person might not be physically available at that moment, right? But leave a freaking message. Or if you don't think they check their messages, then text them. Sometimes I have to call 3 people to find someone who's available at that moment. And I ask them for what I need. I say, I need to get this out. I need to feel heard. I'm in a low vibe space. So I'm going to come across maybe whiny or negative, but I need to get it out. Get it out so it's not in your own head. And therefore you also don't feel alone. What will happen is when you're calling the right person, they'll say, I get it. I've been there. They're going to let you know basically that you're not alone and hear you. And you can at least get some of those feelings out. So when we keep that stuff inside, it festers. It's basically like if you have a cut on your finger and there's an infection, and you just cover it with a Band-Aid and don't put any antibiotic ointment on it, it's going to just keep growing and growing bacteria. That's what happens if we don't get this out. So reach out to someone. If you're in a space in your life where you don't really have anyone, and I've been there. In fact, I was there. It's interesting. I can't remember how long, but it was between 3 and 6 months. I think it was closer to 6 months when I cleaned out my life and I didn't have anyone to call. Well, that wasn't true. I had a therapist, but I didn't have anyone who I didn't pay to call. And that was really, really tough. But you know what I did? I actually DM'd people I'd been following on Instagram who I instinctively felt would write me back, and they did. So you guys can always message me at ProjectME with Tiffany on Instagram. That's the best way. I'm on Facebook too at the same ProjectME with Tiffany. I'm just truthfully not as good about checking that messenger. But you can always reach out to me, like someone who's safe that gets it. So reach out. So you're going to talk. You're going to talk and listen and validate that inner critic, right? Your inner critic, inner bully's feelings at that time. You're going to reach out and talk to someone and get some of this out. And the third thing is the hardest thing, you guys. We always want to resist and fight and push our way through motivation. We want to push ourselves to get back to be motivated. We want to force it. We want to drink more coffee, maybe force ourselves to go to the gym, force ourselves to do the thing, talk ourselves into it, try all the things. And that typically does not work. what works is when we finally surrender to it and go, you know what? This is part of being a human. This is part of the human experience. This is part of business. This is part of life. This is just how it goes sometimes, and ride that wave and surrender to it. Yeah, you might not get as much stuff done. Yeah, you might have to postpone a launch of something. Yeah, you might have to reschedule some appointments. Yes, you might need to sleep more. Yes, you might need to ask some people in your life to help you with some things. Yes, you might have to ask your kids to do more or be more patient or whatever it is. But it's not going to last. This is just temporary. It's a season. Your feelings are not facts. So when you're going down a path of you're unmotivated, that doesn't mean that this isn't for you, that your business isn't going to work. This is part of it. And when we realize that this is just part of it, that doesn't mean we have to like it. I don't like how I feel right now at all. Okay. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I want you to move into acceptance of it. Now, was I in acceptance of this yesterday or the day before? No, I was not. But I did the other things I told you guys to do. Okay, I talked to Susie. I reached out and have spoken to several of my dear friends. And you guys know who you are and you're listening. You know, thank you. And I love you for that. I did a lot of talking to myself. And then today, I finally feel like I'm in acceptance of this is just where I'm at. I've been here before many fucking times in my life, many times. I know it never lasts, and I know it's going to persist if I resist. So the more I resist this, the more I put up a fight, the longer this is going to go on. It takes so much energy to have resistance, you guys, and to force and push, that those low vibe feelings get stretched out longer and they last for days longer than they need to. So I know this. I know it doesn't last. And keep in mind, I'm someone who's also on an anti-anxiety depression medication. So you guys, if those type of medications took away any low vibe feelings, the entire freaking world would be on them. Okay, they don't. So, but I'm saying that because for those of you who are on medication or have a diagnosed mental illness, there can be some shame that comes up, like, God, I shouldn't be feeling this, or maybe I'm more mentally ill than I've even been diagnosed because my medication isn't working. It's like, listen, that'd be like a magic freaking pill, you guys. And that would be, I don't even know what kind of world we would be in if we took out any low vibe feeling. That would be weird because we're not designed to only have high vibe feelings, emotions, and experiences. That's not how it works. Okay. So I am now in that space of acceptance. This is what it is. I can still not like it and be in acceptance. I know it's not going to last. These feelings aren't facts. And I'm going to ride the wave and do the best I can and take things hour by hour. Just hour by hour, and not go into what about tomorrow? What about doing this next week? What about that? Oh, well, I still haven't done my official big public launch of the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, my membership group, right? That has, been put on hold. So for those of you who are interested in going into that, you can apply to get in right now, which I would recommend doing before I go public with it. But my point in saying that is, it's divine timing. Maybe there's a reason I'm supposed to wait. Maybe there's a reason that's supposed to launch in July and it wasn't supposed to launch in June or in May, right? I mean, it's okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. We're not in a race. I know so many of us are in a rush because maybe we want to quit the job that we're at. Maybe we want to change careers. Maybe we're just so miserable and unhappy. We think that if we just achieve this thing or do this thing or reach this goal, our lives will change. And then something happens and the shit hits the fan and we're in this low vibe state. There has to be some form of surrender here, you guys. We have to get yourself to that point, and by resisting, you will not get there. You just have to be in acceptance and surrender and trust that there's something bigger at you at work, whether you believe in God, the angels, universe, spirit, whatever. There's something bigger at work here that knows better timing. And it's funny, when I look back in my life, okay, when things like this have happened, what's always happened? Once I move through, right, this low vibe, unmotivated state, when I come out of it, I end up having this renewed sense of energy and ideas and everything. And all of the time that I perceived as being wasted when I was in that low vibe state was made up for tenfold when I came out of it. So it's not as though you're not going to make up, so to speak, for, things taking longer or being behind on projects or whatever. It'll all work out exactly how it's supposed to. We just need to remind ourselves. So as always, wishing you guys great health, wealth, and worth. If you love this episode, it would really help me if you took even just 90 seconds and went and wrote a 5-star iTunes review. And if you don't know how to do that, you can simply Google it, and you don't have to have, Mac, Apple products in order to do that. Just go to iTunes and leave a 5-star written review. I would really appreciate it. Love you guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.